Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Trisha with Chocolate Musings, and today I want to show you how I watercolor with markers in my bullet journal. I will make a super simple future log with a pop of watercolor for the month names. I had this Limon notebook, is that how you say it? Hopefully I said it right and didn't butcher it. And I decided to try it out for the next few months to really test the quality of the notebook. I'm currently switching from a Leuchtturm, but that's another story for another time. I'll also post a review on the notebook in the coming weeks, so subscribe for future videos. So I had the notebook and I decided to give it a go. In this notebook, I started with a measurement guide for columns and rows, and I will show you that later as well. But today I will start on my future log. Initially, I sketched it in. It has 2 rows and 3 columns to a page, or 2 rows plus a little bit at the bottom and 6 columns per spread. Once I sketched it in, I mostly erased the lines because I plan on watercoloring over the design and I just needed kind of a real subtle outline of where I plan on including all of the items for the spread. I will use Crayola super tip markers to watercolor in the journal, and I will show you the technique I use. If you like this layout, I do have it as a freebie on my blog, and I will add a link to the freebie library below. Here are the supplies you need for watercoloring with markers, and I will link everything below. It's a short list. You'll need a water pen. You'll need markers. In this case, I'm using Crayola super tips, and something to use as a palette. I just use a kitchen plate. It lives on my desk and I rinse it off between uses. You can also use a Ziploc bag or a laminated sheet of paper or even a sheet protector. Just make sure the surface is smooth so it doesn't fray the tips on your markers. And the last thing you need is a paper towel. So you'll scribble the markers on the palette, the plate, the laminated sheet, Ziploc bag, whatever, and then pick up the colors with the water pens. It requires very little water to paint in your notebook, and the colors will be very vibrant. It does take a little practice to figure out how much water you need to use. The less water you use, the better, and this will help prevent bleed through and page wrinkling. I love using super tip markers because you can erase the pencil lines even once you've painted over them, and you can't do that with watercolor paint. This method is my very favorite for painting in my journals. So my first step is to choose colors. Choosing colors for my color scheme, this will be my color scheme for the month of January, is always the hardest part. I like to choose several in a color family, plus some contrasting colors and colors next to my main color on the color wheel, or analogous colors. So for instance, blue is next to purple and green, so I'll use those. And I always add black for shadows and fades. The main color I have is blue, so I added the purples and greens, and the complementary colors, or the colors opposite on the color wheel, are the orange, yellow, and red. I plan on using those very sparingly and just to make the blues really pop. And I will use more of these throughout the month of January. I won't do too much painting on the future log page, just fill in the block letters for the names of the months. Once I've chosen the colors, I will scribble them on my palette. if you use a clear protector sheet, it helps to put a white piece of paper under it so you can see the colors more easily. And you can do this with any type of markers, Tombow, Crayola. If you have some other brush markers, they would work all equally well. To get started with this method, you can start with 10 colors, you can start with 20 colors. You don't have to have the 100 count super tips, and all of these supplies cost me less than $20. So once you have your notebook, it doesn't cost a whole lot to get started and to really start adding color to your journal. So I'm going to start painting February. I don't need January in my future log because I will start my bullet journal with the month of January. So I will start with February and end with January 2020. And then below I have a spot for me to log beyond January 2020. So I'll get my water pen. It's just watery enough to pick up the pigment from the color, and you can mix colors to create new colors from the markers that you chose. And the pigment on the water pen tip is very concentrated. It does paint differently than regular watercolors. You'll need to move quickly and remember to reduce the amount of water that you use. In fact, I squished the water pen reservoir only before I started painting and when I cleaned out the color on the paper towel. Other than that, I never squished the water pen the entire time. If you do get too much water on a page, tear off a corner of your paper towel and dab the water off, or let it soak up the water from the page. I love to add darker colors at the bottom of the letters to make it kind of shaded or an ombre effect. For finishing details, I'll use a Tombow Fudenosuke hard-tipped pen. This is my favorite lettering pen, and I think it's the best for a beginner as well. So if you're just getting started, I will leave a link so that you know what I'm talking about. It is actually the one that has a navy blue barrel. And of course, it never fails. I mess up somewhere on the page. So I'll just use my whiteout tape and fix a little mistake here. I do this at least once on every single page. Since I don't use a lot of water, it does dry very quickly. And I will add some drop shadows to the letters. To make drop shadows, I start imagining where the light is coming from so I know where to place the shadow. Usually for me, I have the light come from the top left-hand side of the page, and so my shadows will be on the bottom right. As you can see, I didn't use a lot of color from my plate or my palette, so I can use the colors again, and I will just add a bit of water to the water pen and get these colors going the next time I need to use them. And that's how I watercolor with markers in my planner, and also how I've set up my future log for the year of 2019. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And also don't forget about the freebie layouts that I've got. You'll also get a whole lineup of freebies that I've got in my sample library. I hope you remember to plan your life so that you live beautifully. And don't be afraid to try something new and discover your inner muse. See you next time.